my guest today, Dr. Mairead Case. We're going to be talking about music. But before we get into that, I want to thank Marianne for becoming a paid subscriber. All the paid subscribers, you guys are awesome. Appreciate you. I'm running a little holiday special right now, so join them. It's awesome. Appreciate you supporting the podcast. All right, Dr. Mairead Case, why don't you introduce yourself to people who maybe don't know you, what you do for work, and also what you do for fun?
Sweet. Thank you for having me. I'm Mairead Case. Mairead rhymes with parade, and I live in Denver, where I'm a teacher and a writer. I teach at the School of Mines, and then I teach at a few jails out here too.
Right. So Mairead does a ton of stuff. She's a professor of poetry and literature. She's been teaching in women's jails since 2006, which is super rad. She's a novelist. Her most recent novel is called Tiny. You should read it. And I'm having her on today to talk about music because I don't know many people who love music as much as Mairead does. She does interviews and edits a music magazine called Maggot Brain. Love the title, by the way.
We love Parliament.
um, so rock and roll. So maybe you could tell us like how you grew up and how you discovered your love of music.
We talked a little bit too about just like having nostalgia for kind of like the physical stacks of media. Um, I remember my mom taking us to Fred Meyer. I grew up in Seattle, and we would they had like those racks of cassettes at the front, and it was such a specific thing because of how that technology is, right? Where it's like you knew that you could like maybe get one side on the way to school or on the way to mass or soccer practice or whatever. And so mom would like pick a decade and then get a cassette from that period of time. And it was so exciting.
So Fred
So
Meyer was like a grocery store. I don't know Seattle. Tell me.
yeah, it's kind of like Meijer, but it's like you could go and also get like flip-flops or gardening supplies. Like it wasn't huge, but it was kind of like all the jams you needed for a weekend afternoon moment with your kids, you know?
Totally. So your parents loved music. They listened to music
Yeah.
in your house.
Yeah, my mom listened to it all the time, and my dad always listened to jazz. And so if he was in his he kind of would have like a little space where he would write letters and just kind of like take a dad moment and do paperwork. And I would always hear music coming from there, and it was just nice to remember that to know he was there, you know.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think those early things that we listen to stick with us in a different way.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
stuff that you listen to when you're a teenager stays with you. It's like the books that you first fall in love with, you know?
And it's
Um,
like a tactile thing too. Like, do you remember how music first came into your life? Because you love it just as much as I do, I know.
yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk about making mix CDs because I'm really nostalgic just as a person for like a stack of CDs and the way you could make someone a love letter or a stack of tapes. We're old enough to remember that. My brother Abram was like 9 years older than me. And so he left home and went to college when I was still a little girl. And I was so sad that he was leaving. And I went into his room and I opened the closet and there were no clothes. I'm all emotional. And he had left me a mixtape. And it was my name, like in a brown paper bag. And the mixtape was called Smile. And
What a good brother move.
and I
Oh.
put it in, and it was the first song was like Video Killed the Radio Star or something. And I felt so loved because I realized in that moment that music was a way that you could give your emotions to another person without having to be physically in the same space. You could share like your love for them or your appreciation or respect. I felt very respected because I was like 9 years old and I was like, you respect me with this music that you love. And so I think it kind of all started there of like a way to connect with other people in a way you could say things through music that you maybe couldn't say always through words, you know?
Yeah, and it kind of like goes above time too, right? It's like that could be a mix that he could make, when you were a teenager or like now, and it's still the same sort of like I see you kind of a moment.
Yeah, he still makes me a mix every year, which I don't even know because like computers don't have a way to burn CDs anymore, which is really sad. They've robbed us. But anyway, yeah, like a physical thing. And even just like all of the making a collage for the cover and, all of that ways of showing that you care about someone and just the amount of time that we would spend. I mean, if you had a crush on someone, you like labored
Yep.
over that that mix for them of like this song and then the one that it goes right after it. And I mean, really it was such a cool way to say things that you couldn't say to their
Yeah.
face.
Yeah, sometimes to our detriment, right? It's like like sometimes I'm like, "Oh, Mairead, you thought you were being so clear with that mix, and it was just real dark and moody," which we love, but, you know.
Yeah, whoever's on the other end is like, I have no idea what you meant by this, but but thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so you wrote somewhere because you're a writer, and so your writing is all over the internet. That when you listen through your headphones to music as a teenager, it made you think somehow that the outside world could be good sometimes.
Yeah, which is so dramatic, but also, like, really true, you know? Like, I think, you and I have talked about this before too, right? Where you're like, you've got your headphones on and you're like walking somewhere, or you're like taking a minute, and it's like you can kind of like hear yourself think in a certain way. Like, I realize that's not actually what's happening, but it's like you can kind of condense your world down in a way. And then you kind of like it felt like having permission to go out into the wider world, and I think music was a really good way for me to like meet people, like meeting you at the radio station, and then meeting different people in Seattle through shows, with the teen dance ordinance, and just kind of all ages shows at that point. Like, it's the first spaces where I really got to have a sense of myself as an adult, a maniac adult in the early days, right? But just like, oh yeah, like I can go and do this and stand with other people in a room and like just exist. And That felt really like radical and cool as a teenager, which I know wasn't unique to me, but like that was just kind of the moment where I saw that happening.
What was that thing you just said? It was a dance club, or what did you call
It
it?
was this teen dance ordinance. There was this weird law in Seattle where if you were going to have an all ages, if you're going to have a gathering where people were going to be dancing,
Mhm.
then you essentially had to pay a lot of money for security. So it was essentially impossible to have all ages shows that were affordable because you needed to have alcohol or you needed to kind of be in a more above ground space. And so
Mhm.
there was this like generation of Seattle kids that were like really like militantly into showing up in government spaces and dancing. Um,
So
which
punk.
like right? Like, which took the joy out of it in some ways, right? Because we just felt like we had to like fight. So it was a very particular way to come up through that. But it introduced me to like a lot of powerful feelings in music.
Yeah. So part of what made you love music was the connection, the community, dancing with other people, meeting really cool people. I feel like Seattle, I've never been there, but it's so associated with grunge. Was that all happening when you were coming up, or?
Yeah, yeah. And like, so, people around it too, but also, just the sense of like harm reduction and, thinking about how to kind of take care of each other with like safer practices around drugs and those sorts of things. I was straight edge for a very long time, but, it felt really urgent, in a way that was really attractive to me as a feral teenager. Uh,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, straight edge guys were so cute. I had a crush on this guy who had a tattoo that was like a broccoli because he was vegan. He was straight edge, and he was so like earnest and like sincere and like wanting to make the world a better place, but also like really punk rock. And I was like, I didn't know these things could like coexist, and it's beautiful. So music kind of gives you a way to a type of life that maybe you can't imagine until you see it happening, of different ways to live, different
mhm,
ways to be human. You're like, oh, you're really scary, but also very sweet and care about animals. And then after high school, growing up in Seattle, then you moved to Chicago after college. I met you in college when we were working at the radio station.
mhm.
And you wrote about music in Chicago. You were on the Chicago music scene. Like, what was that like?
It was, we all did you ever do like a blog or a blog spot sort of a
Yeah.
moment, like the Tumblr moment? So you had like your little like blog roll to the side, right? And like a lot of the people that I had there on the blog roll in South Bend were people that lived in Chicago. And so one of them needed a roommate because her boyfriend was going on tour for the summer. And so I just like packed up. I had like a box of stuff, and like went off, and it was like this chocolate brown room and this mattress on the floor. And like it's the kind of thing that like you probably really like you really only do it once in your life, just like fully going. And it felt really romantic, and then I just stayed. um but I feel like there's also this thing with like music criticism, which you know too, right? It's like that's part of why we like mixtapes so much. Like just thinking about being at the radio station and like just writing things on it, like, like, oh, like play this track or listen to this thing. Like I really love the communal aspect of it much more than I do the kind of the idea of being a music critic that maybe doesn't actually play music and maybe not needing to be such a hater about certain things. And so it was a good way to be like on the block and writing about music, but also like listening a lot better and meeting people and doing interviews. Like, I was very careful of not wanting to be like, your album sucks, it's over.
Yeah.
Which was maybe to my detriment too, but I think there's a way to do that where you're inviting people in, and there's a way where you're just kind of policing a scene, which isn't useful.
So you weren't making music. You were more of on the writing about music side.
Yeah, yeah, I worked for Pitchfork and Punk Planet and different places like that.
That's so
So
cool. What a dream job. What a cool life. I mean, not very lucrative, but
no,
very
but
fun.
you did the launch after college to go move to a city and be a writer too, right?
I mean, all of my life decisions could probably be explained by like lyrics or novels. There's pros and cons to living like that. I mean,
I didn't
not,
know that it was weird though. Like I was just like, well, this is how everybody does it. And then
yeah.
now it's like, oh, people don't just yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't really have a really practical life plan at all. It was all romantic. But I didn't, yeah, I thought that's what everybody did. I don't know. I didn't think in that way until recently about like, oh yeah, you really need to make money and those kind of things. But I think that the beautiful part of making art, being around people who make art, is that you just feel very alive. And the aliveness is kind of addicting. Like when you go to a live show versus listening to recorded music, there's just something really powerful in being with other people who are making art with their bodies right in front of you. And you've probably done more of observing that and appreciating that than anybody I know. So I don't know, maybe you could speak to going to shows. Do you still go to shows? Is
Mhm.
that still part of your practice for like finding joy in your life or?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even before that too, like thinking about like kind of both you and I launching and kind of coming into this space, like part of the joy in it for me is like the something that I guess I learned from my parents and from church too, just like the joy of like just working on a project like really hard, just like going in and doing it, and being proud of that work. Like, I don't think that you or I ever like really were thinking about how we were going to make money when we were in our early 20s, but it wasn't because we didn't know it was important, right? Like it was just like, oh yeah, like I'll haul this in, or I'll do this, or I'll work this side job. It's like the hustle with it too, and then like the release when you walk into a concert and you're like, all right, I get to like exist here in this space, was a really important part of my 20s. And still is. Like I went to go see I saw Nico Case last week, which was so lovely. Like her voice is so beautiful, and it was cool to see a different crowd of people. And we were leaving, and I was taking a proof of mom photo for a mom who was there with her family, and then she was just like, "Wait, do you want one of you too?" And like nobody had ever flipped it like that. And then I was like, "Oh yeah, like solo show going moment. Like I'm here," and it was so lovely.
I think that's super cool to go to a show by yourself and to like protect your own like process. Like if your partner doesn't love music or doesn't love the same music, like to still go and still enjoy it. I'm like at the age of my life where I don't go to that many shows because I love to sleep. I wish shows like started earlier. But I love like really small shows where it's closer to my house. And so like Lulu's downtown in Colorado Springs, I went and saw Hayes Carl there, who's like a country guy. And it was just an amazing show because he's so funny and he was right next to us and everyone was dancing. And I really love that kind of almost a casual or like a smaller bar show.
Mm.
Um, it just feels like you can slip into this other world, like just down the corner. I don't know. I find that, I mean, I love, like, I go to Red Rocks. I saw Waxahachie at Red Rocks. It was amazing. But there's something about those like little pockets. Like one time I had a show in the shop. We have a wood shop downstairs. That was really fun. Mike Clark, he played, and he's just like a local guy. He plays in Pueblo. But just having people together and having someone sing and make music is such a primal human experience. I mean, people have been doing that as long as there's been people on earth. So making music, even if you can't make it yourself, like I love to sing, but I'm a horrible singer. But I love to sing. And so if someone else is singing, then I can sing along, and I really enjoyed that. And I can sound pretty good. Like if we all sing together,
Yeah, no, and
we
like the
all
whole
sound
like
pretty good.
the verse chorus verse thing, it's like just how do we do it something together? How do we make it work? Like, did you ever see Lucky Dragons play?
Mm-mm.
They are from, I believe, the Bay Area, but they would do this like this one song, I guess you could call it, where it was like called Make a Baby. And they would give everybody like different sorts of like electrodes and like instruments. And so like the whole group would then be able to play something together. It was a really cool way to kind of flip like who's on stage and who's off. And a cool crowd even, because it's like the kids in the audience will just be like, oh yeah, I will 100% get up and like make this jingly noise, and then like the cool people in the back would like, eventually like go in. And I like that model for just thinking about community too.
Yeah. Yeah. And just participating and being like uninhibited. I love when people dance like really badly. I love to dance really badly. Just
You're a great
like
dancer
just
though. Have you
like
have you always seen yourself
flailing.
as a dancer?
I
Like,
love to dance. I love to dance. I love to dance in the kitchen. And my son, he's a teenager now. He'll be like, that looks terrible. That is so cringe, which is like developmentally appropriate, I know. But I'm like, I'm not trying to look good. Like my heroes when I was a teenager were those girls who would go out and just be so weird, like have a Bjork moment and just like flail around. And they weren't trying to necessarily be pretty or sexy. They were just like feeling this music in their body. And I was like, that girl is badass. Like, I want to be like her, so present and so alive and not necessarily trying to be cute. Ugh, I could talk about that girl at shows all day. Maybe she is cute. Maybe she's not, but she's not bothered,
yeah.
because she's feeling what she's feeling. Oh, that's like transcendence to me. And I think when I look back on my life, like writing, making furniture, having kids, listening to music, it's all just like chasing that same transcendence. Even the spiritual stuff, I think it's all chasing those same moments where you're just like, you're, it's something more. You're not, I don't know,
Yeah.
you're
And it's like
uplifted or you're connected to something bigger than yourself, bigger than what you look like. I'm always chasing those moments, I think.
yeah, because you have to be like embodied to do it. And then also it like is a way to like think about things beyond that too, to because you have to be you have to be in your body to dance. And you have
Yeah.
to be with people and you have to practice boundaries, and ideally you're practicing consent. Like I know that I learned that through music scenes by like not having it and then getting complicated with it and then now being like, oh right, like this is my space. um so yeah, it's really magical.
It's
So
courage too. Like if you want to ask someone, like, will you dance with me? There's so much courage to doing those kind of things and so much that you learn about yourself through putting yourself in those positions with other people. And I think with every new technology, okay, so this is actually like an ancient technology, but right, there's pros and cons. And so like with recorded music, there's a pro because now we can listen to music all the time. Like you're probably in the top 1% of streamers, I'm sure. You love music. I'm just
mhm.
guessing. And it's amazing because it can travel with you in your car. It can travel with you when you're doing the dishes. But maybe one of the downsides is that you're not getting those moments of making music with other people.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I also feel like it can be like thinking about like, the rights that our kids have, like it can be messy to just kind of, and neither you nor I are here, but to kind of just be in a like nostalgic moment, like do I think kids these days are missing out because they're not making mixtapes? Like 100%, but then also like it's really wonderful to learn different things from my students and from I'm sure obviously like your kids and their friends, and like it's music also like keeps on showing me that like even though technology is changing, like we can still have this space together. I went and saw Captain Jazz a while ago too, and I love them and they're friends and they've helped me with like writing too. And like the show was amazing because there was immediately this pit and like people were either like in their 50s or like in their 20s and like Tim like has a French horn that he's like blasting towards the ceiling and there are all these like X's on hands in the crowd and like I felt really safe. Like it could have been so chaotic, it could have been nuts, but it's just like people were handing out water bottles and like catching each other on their backs and like um it feels really like a privilege of our lives to be able to be in moments like that.
Yeah. What are you learning from your students? Like, what are they teaching you, young people, about music these days? Like, what are they getting you to listen to or appreciate?
I feel like the like the depth and just coolness and comfortability and realness of like a lot of the queer music that they're listening to, which is like just beautiful. Like there's like a whole different crop of like femme front people that I learned so much just by like listening to and like the ways that my students are talking about like bodies changing in between or like, you know, how do you deal with blood? How do you deal with like how you see yourself and your body is like an extension of the kinds of things that we were talking about, but it's like so much like deeper and kinder. And there's more possibility in it. So like I'm it's so corny, but it's like I'm genuinely grateful for like the sense of the future that I get from my students,
Yeah.
Like yeah.
That's awesome. I love that about working with young people. When you're talking about like queer femme, I mean, I'm thinking like Chapel Roan, obviously, because she's like
Mhm.
number one, but who else are you thinking about?
I mean, kind of like a crop of people that like have come up around Sophie, or there's like a cover that I'm thinking of. This is a little graphic if that's okay for the
It's okay.
internet. And it's like two people's torsos next to each other, and the one person's hand is on the other person's stomach, and their hand is like bloody.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not a violent thing, it's just like a tender thing. And I that sort of like embodiment and like realness of just like what it can be to look out for people as like their bodies are changing and shifting through certain things is like really beautiful and not something that we were on the level of. I mean I wasn't at that time.
Yeah.
And then like by extension like the ways that people will just say no at shows if they don't want to do something, right? Like I get that that isn't true in all cases, but the ways that students talk about like consent or what's appropriate or what you can do and what you can't do in a way that's not policing but is like actually like opening up the space more. Like if you want to go nuts and you've got your space, you're not harming anybody else, like go in, that's great, you don't have to explain why, right? But on the same time, if you want to hang out in the back and just chill, that's great, you know. um
Yeah. I feel like I'm really old and out of touch, but I feel really lucky to have grown up around like the Lilith Fair kind of like lesbians with guitars music.
mhm.
Because I went to shows as a young person with like Tracy Chapman, Indigo Girls, Ani DeFranco, all that whole type of scene. And it was just a very positive environment around being in a female body. And you saw women with like hairy armpits and um, just all kinds of expressions of what that could look like. And I think American music is something I'm not always very patriotic right now, but something I'm actually really patriotic about is like we should be really proud of the music that's come out of the United States of America. It's like
Mhm.
one of our best things.
Mhm.
And the ways in which it's always been a vehicle for moving conversations forward, um, about, like, who gets to be beautiful, who gets to matter, who gets to exist,
Yeah.
what your life can look like, and so as a young, like, female, those images were super powerful to me. I remember I bought the Ani DeFranco T-shirt where she was, like, nude and she had the arms, and it said, like, "Here comes little naked me," and I would, like, wear that to high school. And I would feel so badass, and it was just this image of, like, what it could look like to be a woman and what it could look like to be a female person. And it could look like having biceps, you know?
Mhm,
It could look
mhm,
like having a shaved head. So music is both, mostly something you listen to, but it's also something that you see. There's visuals associated with it, right?
mhm.
And often visuals of transgression or defiance or rebellion, which are big parts of the best of America, I think, that we're kind of a rebellious people who don't like to be pushed around. I don't know if you could speak to that because I think like in this time of like rising authoritarianism, like what is the role that music can play? Does it play a role in that?
I mean, I really want to believe that it's a way to have people really genuinely connect, like, I don't the whole thing too where it's like I mean, obviously, you and I are people who talk to our neighbors, and, I'm always gonna, like, just know people's names. That's how my dad did it, that's how I'm gonna do it, but, like, I think when I was a kid and, like, really into the music space, I really felt like I had to tell everybody my politics immediately, and I had to really have them connect, and I had to convince them of things, and that was a really important, like, space for me to be in at that time, but I'm also glad that I, through music in a lot of ways, have learned to just kind of, like, exist next to somebody, and, like, if it's a small thing where you're just, like, getting somebody some water or something at a show because they need it or just, like, saying they look cute in the bathroom, like, that I feel like is a space that's really important to have, and I do feel sad if people don't get to do that, like, it's definitely obviously different going out to see a show than it is, being, on your own, one isn't worse than the other, but it's a very different experience.
Yeah.
Um, I think too, like, about how music has kind of taught me to not care so much about some things, it's like you talking about Lilith Fair, like, remember when, like, Paula Cole had the whole thing with her arm on I think it was at the Grammys, right? They, like, all got up and instead of having their own, like, individual concert performance moments, they did a medley, and then she didn't shave, and, like, the massive amount of, like, just backlash and gross stuff, like, you can obviously look it up, and there's, like, a medley of people, like, giving Paula Cole a bad time about her underarm hair, and it's like, at this point, like, I could 100% go in and be like, "Oh, well, here's why this is messed up, like, anybody should have body hair if they want it," but it's also just like, we don't have the time to do that anymore, like, there's totalitarianism to think about, like, let's, like, just like,
Yeah.
let's talk about what matters.
Yeah. We kind of grew up in a little bit of a privileged moment where we could really be stressed out about Paula Cole's like underarm hair. Like, really? Come on, guys.
Well, I mean, it's just so awful, like, do you feel like listening to music too, like, I know that we both, like, came up out of, like, a religious background, like, for me, it was very transgressive to listen to lyrics sometimes that were things I knew that I, like, couldn't say out loud at home or talk about, like, did you have that kind of an experience too, or, like, where did the rebellion pop up in it for you?
Yeah, I mean, my parents didn't really like popular music. My mom liked, like, Gregorian chants, I'm not
Mhm.
even kidding you, and, like, Mozart. I mean, they liked music, but not, like, popular music or rock and roll or anything like that, so I do think it was a really good way to explore stuff that I couldn't necessarily talk about with them. I loved Liz Phair, which I now think is so funny because I would listen to Exile in Guyville, and it's, like, the divorce song, and I'm, like, 14, and I'm like, "This is so good." Um, I had not had any of those life experiences of being mistreated by men or anything like that, but I was interested in them, you know? And I wanted some place to, like, think about longing and sex and relationships, and I couldn't talk about any of that stuff with anybody because I felt so much shame about it. I think the way I grew up, I just felt like, "Oh god, I'm a monster."
Mhm.
Because I felt like having those desires, especially when you hit puberty now, I think a lot of teenagers feel like they're probably a monster. But in music, in the same with novels, you're not alone anymore. Now you're like, "Oh, like, longing is normal. It's painful for everybody." People fall in love with the wrong person. This is a universal human experience. And so, through the lyrics of music, not just about romance, but about all sorts of things, you could explore stuff that you didn't want to talk to. I didn't want to talk to my mom about stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe kids today, I hope there's more of an open conversation, but even with my son now, he's 14, like, we'll be listening to, like he loves, like, dad rock, like classic rock. And we talk about stuff because of what we're listening to that we wouldn't talk about otherwise, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, it is a way into conversations that you probably otherwise wouldn't have with your mom, um, about sex and women and relationships and all of the things, right? That he's thinking about, but that he probably doesn't want to just like bring up after school, you know?
Yeah.
And so music is a way in because we're both enjoying this song, you know? And so it doesn't feel like it's about us, but in another way, it is because it's a universal human experience of longing, a desire, or all of that stuff that everybody has to figure out what to do with in their life, you know? I don't care if you're a monk, you still have to figure out what to do with that stuff, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You still have a body, like I like what you said about, sometimes you fall in love with like the wrong person or the wrong guy and like just thinking too about how music was maybe the only place that I really knew that as like a story or like a reality as a kid. Like it wasn't like, oh, this person should have done something differently or we can go in and save them. It's just like, no, this is like a part of their journey. And obviously that's a very specific thing to me and how I came up. Like there are other ways to realize that. But it was a really cool, like genuine way to practice empathy in a way that meant that you didn't have to like, because you can't imagine being in somebody else's shoes, right? But you can absolutely imagine like taking the wrong path in the forest, and then like needing your friends to help haul you out. And I think for me as a kid, like music introduced that to me in a certain way, like being able to be in a room and not have to control people or make a choice or exist or not exist, Um,
Yeah. Or did you feel, was your upbringing pretty strict? Like my parents were pretty strict. You grew up Catholic as well. Were they pretty strict?
Yeah, there was a rule that I could read any book that I wanted ever. Um, I but then I had restrictions on movies and music, which sounds so extreme now, right? And it's like, but I that really was the rule. And so then I had this sense, like, kind of like Reagan era, like music stuff too, where it's like on some level, I like genuinely thought that I was like harming myself or opening up a different kind of a world to be like listening to some of this music. And it wasn't that I wasn't hiding it, but I was just like, this is, kind of like you said, the sort of monster moment where you're like, here's how this should be here, and then here's what I want, and how do I mix them? So dramatic and so emotional. But yeah, it absolutely was a way for me to just kind of take a little step to the side, you know?
Yeah. And so did you like go to the record store and buy CDs and like kind of secretly listen to them? I mean, I want to hear more.
I I didn't have headphones. I don't think it was anybody's choice, but, like, it was always very clear because we lived in a pretty small apartment, like, what I was listening to. And my mom would always listen to things with me, and she would get excited about it, but then she would always also want to, like, kind of, like, process it or think about the meaning or, kind of take a little bit of the magic away with it sometimes, and so that kind of taught me how to have a space for myself in my life as a kid. Like and no shade on my mom. Like I would want to be that kind of a mom too, but like the nature of the thing gave me my own space. And then making mixes for my sister, like how your brother did for you and vice versa.
It's so
Yeah.
funny, right? Because sometimes like the things where we get resistance is like maybe you wouldn't have been like a rock critic if you hadn't
Oh,
had that little bit of resistance.
yeah.
You know? Like
Yep.
ironically,
Yeah.
if it hadn't been like a little bit forbidden to you, maybe you wouldn't have loved it with such a ferocity. I kind of love that. It's ironic, but it's kind of beautiful.
Well, and, like, in our 40s too, there's a joy in that, right? Because it's like, "No, this is absolutely who I am," right? And it's like, maybe there was pressure on that way that, like, sped it up or diverted it a little bit, but, like, I am the person I'm supposed to be, which, like, is cool.
Yeah, yeah. It all makes sense in retrospect. You're like, oh yeah, same. I still love emo or whatever. Um, you
What do
teach
you remember most about, like, being in the radio station? Like, do you have like, I remember just being able to be on the couch and listen to whoever was playing and just kind of, like, chill and know that I wasn't the only one in the space. Like, do you have memories just about the technology of it or the routine of it?
Gosh, I don't know. I loved doing my radio show. I don't think anybody listened. I had one on the internet and then one on the classical music station at Notre Dame switched to rock at midnight. And so I would trudge over there in the cold, like at midnight to do my show. And that one I actually had listeners and they were truckers. And it was so funny because I would play all this really sad indie rock music, like Iron and Wine or whatever, The Shins or something. And I would get a phone call and this guy would be like, play Led Zeppelin. And I'd be like, okay. Um, so it was good for me because when I was with my other radio friends, I felt like I had to like the cool bands. But deep down, I also really like Led Zeppelin, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of fun to have both. And like to not, it was hard for me because it was wonderful to be around people who loved music, but it was also hard because there was that pressure to like the right music. And I've always also liked the wrong music. I mean, both. Like I also love the hits, you know, I love it. I don't discriminate. And so it was awesome because it was a community of people who loved music, but it was also tough because at that age when you're more insecure, you're embarrassed to admit that you love someone who's really popular. And you're like, no, Led Zeppelin's a rock god, dude. Like, respect. You're a long form trucker. Like, I'm going to play you Led Zeppelin right now.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm. I have a
awesome.
friend who has Led Zepp tattooed on one of her back molars.
Yeah. So cool. Like, just claim it. You know, you don't have to like the right music. My little guy, he's 7. He like loves Taylor Swift. And I'm just like, that's great. I'm happy that you're dancing, that you're connecting with your friends over music. You know, it doesn't have to be like the coolest music in the world. It makes you happy, you know, and that's what's so cool about it. It makes him happy. It brings him joy. For a while, he was like, I'm going to be a backup dancer for Taylor Swift. And I was like, buddy, you're going to have to like practice really hard. But like, I'm
I
stoked.
believe you.
Like, I'm stoked. Like, I will be there at the show, you know, whatever you want to do. As long as it makes you feel alive, you're not hurting other people, you do it.
Well, her whole thing too with like the idea of like being in different eras and like, oh, like, you know, like that's been a useful thing for me to just be like, oh, like I was in my, you know, like punk kid era or I was in my, you know, recuperating from grad school era sort of a thing. Like just being able to frame it that way is really lovely. Um
Yeah, you don't have to be one thing. You can continue to reinvent yourself and grow and change. In fact, you probably should, because it would be kind of weird if you were the same at 40 as you were at 14.
which we know, right? But then we also just are like terminally special to some degree, right? And so it's like great to be like, no, like you can have eras and go on a major world tour and wear sparkles, like done, you know?
You know, my son was like, how come Taylor Swift doesn't have to wear pants? And I was like, when you are a performer, you don't have to wear pants. Like, if you are a lawyer, you have to wear pants. Okay. And so we're learning so much, you know, about, you know, if you're at the swimming pool, you don't have to wear pants. Okay. But
Yep,
if you're a day trader, pants.
yep.
Anyway, so you teach poetry in the prisons, you teach poetry to college kids. How is music like or unlike poetry for you?
It's a good question. I think there's different answers, right? As a teacher and then just as somebody who's like listening to it. I There's the version where well, I was just thinking about, AIM and, like, having song lyrics on AIM, right? And being like, "Here's how I'm feeling tonight, here's some Wilco," right? Um, I think it's really cool when students realize that there isn't like, students at Minds when they realize that there are rules, there are structures, but also that sort of genre difference doesn't matter so much, like, part of like, you know, what you and I both learned in PLS is like starting at the beginning, right? And it's like as so I teach them that like poetry should be something that is spoken and said out loud. Like Pinsky uses that a lot with his book about sound. And, you know, it's like, yes, you can analyze this. Yes, you can like you know, unpack it or but it's not like it's a puzzle to solve or it's not like there's like one meaning to be taken away and a lot of them have had that been told to them in high school and so they kind of have the joy out of it because it's like oh well I can't get this or I don't have these references and so having it be something that is sonic and musical and like shared leads us to some really cool conversations where they can just talk about it. Like Paisley Rekdal's thing about like forensics, like what do you notice? Start with that. It's also just a good practice to be like, you know, where do you want to be in the room? Like what kind of sounds do you like? Like what does this remind you of? And then from there, that whole thing is something that can make meaning um with you as the listener too, right? Um in the prison it becomes more of a like, way to create space. It's almost like I think about it like bringing the wallpaper into the room in some ways because they have so little choices every day. And so being able to say, what music would you like me to bring in? Like, I can't bring in any sounds, but I can bring in lyrics. And so, in that sense, I guess songs are directly poems, but then they'll do this incredible karaoke moment. Like, um, we haven't done it so much recently, but a few years ago, we would just like go in and like do like a cappella karaoke, which is, I think, maybe the ideal way for a poetry class to go, you know?
Yeah, I think singing is so important and healing, and it's sad that we have to be really, really drunk usually to do karaoke, because we have to get out of our ego part. But if you could do it more often, you could get where you didn't have to be really drunk. Because I had an experience where a couple of years ago where I was at a bar and a friend came in with a guitar and we started singing like Blaze Foley songs together, all of us at the table. And I thought, like, this is honestly one of the most fun evenings of my life. And it was so fun because we just were singing songs that we all love together. And at its best, a poem or a song is like that, where all these really different people with really different life experiences. I'm thinking you and your students, I mean, they're incarcerated, talk about a different life experience from your life experiences. But you're singing a song together and connecting as human beings who enjoy music or who enjoy laughter.
Mhm.
And that's really where incredible changes happen, is when we can connect with other people across those kinds of differences, and find like this guy I was singing Blaze Foley with. He's a super MAGA guy, but like we both love Blaze Foley, and we love one another and we grew up together. And I think those connections are really important to kind of peacemaking, honestly. I don't want to be too like Pollyanna, but honestly, I really do think that these are the things, these moments of beauty that transcend those divides, that over time can change people's lives and hearts and experiences. So yeah, it's all like pretty. It sounds silly, but I'm kind of into this book, Deep Play, where she's like, actually, it's not.
Mhm.
Actually, there's really something to it, and you
Yeah.
should go to karaoke. If you're listening to this, probably should go to karaoke or a show or have people over just with guitars in your living room.
Even just,
Um,
and speaking of, like, corny, it's like that helps you breathe. Like, I before I started doing yoga as much as I do, I was not aware of how much I held my breath. And, like, so if you're with somebody and you're screaming or singing or whatever it is, like, you're more in your body. At Captain Jazz, there's this one, like, refrain, which is, "Heartbreak," and so they're all just being like, "Heartbreak, heartbreak," and it was, like, kind of amazing. It's like, "Let's be alive together." Um
yeah, I love it. I love it. Do you have singing as part of your life now? Like, do you just sing along in your car when you're driving to work, or?
I do. Um, I yell in my car too, which has been useful.
Yeah.
Um, but I chant at, the yoga place that I go to, which, has been really lovely because it's a completely new language to me, and so it's also just it's a way that, like, teaches you to listen, right? Like, in the way that, like, I think it's, like, Pauline Oliveros, like, said it first, where it's like you're creating a field if you're, like, repeating a thing. And so it's been really lovely to just kind of do that, right? To just say, okay, like, what if I chant the same thing a few times, and or what if I play this song multiple times over while I'm here in my studio or whatever. And that's felt important.
And going deeper.
Hmm.
So you studied at Naropa? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, in Europa. Yeah, I worked at the summer writing program there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So it's a Buddhist school, and so there's a lot of chant, but really chant is in every world religion,
Everything.
everywhere. And so I kind of think if something's everywhere, like maybe there's something to it?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
No, I mean, it's like I think about, because it was like the truckers in the convent that would be listening to like the radio station like late at night, and it's like there's a rhythm to that, there's a repetition to that. And that's one of the safest routines I know in my life.
Yeah.
We're gonna play Led Zeppelin, the nuns are listening, the truckers are listening. we're all here, like
Yeah. I mean, or you can even sing a lullaby to yourself. I mean, most people, if they're lucky, had someone in their life at some point who like sang a lullaby or a sleep song to them. That's in every culture as well. But we can even kind of do it for ourselves. You know, if you have a yoga practice or a chanting practice or a certain song for a while, I mean, again, don't judge it. For a while, my now 7-year-old wanted to hear like a song on the phone played by his ear that I think was from Frozen 2. But you know, it was like his little comfort and his every night the same song, that can really be a lovely ritual and a way to get through hard times. If people have been singing to get through hard times, maybe there's something to it. What do you think is like MAGA's relationship to music? Like, what do you think? Is there like a MAGA sound? Are they trying to like make a political statement in music or not really?
it's so
That's a hard
hard.
question.
Yeah, right? Like it's a good question. I don't I mean a lot of the people that I interact with daily are like kind of on that spectrum. And my immediate response to it is to just, yeah, think about like listening practices. How are we together? Like, have people told you that poetry has to be this one way? And if so, like, let's open that up, right? Like, I mean, like the way that the angels are described in the Bible is like wild. Like that is like Revelations has some wild poetry in it, right? And so it's like, yeah, we can just go in here and start here, and I
Yeah.
like that is part of music too, right? Like that connects there. I don't know. I get nervous now thinking about being in giant rooms where there are like a lot of noises and routines and like fireworks. I don't think that it was ever necessarily my most favorite thing, but just seeing clips of like some of the bigger rallies and that sort of a thing like reminds me of the feeling that I would get when I was a teenager at the dance ordinance stuff and we trained ourselves to see who had intense tattoos because there's also a pretty like um uh like severely racist contingent in the Seattle area, and so kind of like checking for different sorts of signs. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't know because I feel so taken aback and so like in my body about it. um but then maybe that means that there isn't a certain sound. Do you feel there is one?
I feel like I have been following the Department of Homeland Security and I feel like they're really trying to appropriate like country and gospel. And I take it kind of personal because I love country and gospel.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of what you're saying is like going deeper, you know, like if you're playing like a black gospel song like Jesus Walks for like an ad for ice, just kind of let's listen to that song and like think about the people who wrote it and like maybe what they might think about an organization that's targeting minorities. I mean, let's like go deeper. I should love gospel music and I should love country music. I know they sampled like a Zach Bryan song and it was like all night revival. And I was like, let's listen to this song. Like, what do you think he's trying to say? Do you think it meshes with what they're trying to say? Because I think a lot of times music gets used by like corporations or states in ways that the artist or the fans might kind of take issue with. I know Bruce Springsteen was always pissed about Born in the USA. He's like, you're misunderstanding me. I know Zach Bryan was pissed that they used his song. He wrote like an anti-ice song. Um,
Yep.
and saying like, hey, I want to keep this conversation going and not let you think that my art is like one note. There's a lot of layers to it. Let's hang in there. Let's keep asking those open-ended questions about what gospel music is about or what country music is about. It's probably not just about one thing, you know?
Yeah, which is such an important thing that like is one of those things where we can say, but then we don't like know it, right? Like, just working with students and being like, no, like write a paragraph, and then you've parked downhill. You can take a step back. You can come back to it later, and you'll have a paragraph to work on. You
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Start somewhere. Write a paragraph, you guys. Write a song. I would recommend that you try to write a song and then you will feel so much respect for songwriters. It's really hard. Try to write a poem when you get off this, and then you'll be like, wow, I'm not going to be a hater anymore. That's really hard to do. It's also really fun to do, and you can write a bad one, and that's okay. Thank you, Mairead, so much for talking to us about music. I'm so thrilled to know that you're still going to shows, that you're still probably making playlists. I hope you
yeah,
make one for us. I'll share it with everybody.
I would love
Um,
to.
and still teaching people to fall in love with like the sound that words make and the rhythm and all of that stuff because it's kind of what keeps us connected to the heart space. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you for
Thank you
coming
too.
on.
Yeah, it's so good to see you.